Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with the Immortal Empires, turning our attentions to the Mono-God factions today, as a lot of changes have come into effect for them thanks to the Champions of Chaos DLC. So as you can see here, we're with Skarbrand, and you know, Skarbrand was always very strong. Realm of Chaos, he was probably one of the strongest factions, the most easiest to play, I'd say, for most of the players. And yeah, this new update is making him a lot stronger. I didn't really think this was going to be the case, considering the fact that we were starting in the Southlands. I thought this was going to be a harder start. Mostly because we'll be dealing with factions like Wurzag, who have loads of magical attacks which do more damage to the demons and so on. But no, he's actually a lot stronger now. So we're going to talk about it, we're going to jump into loads of different things, and yeah, we're just going to have some fun, considering that there are skulls to claim for the Blood God. But before anything, just a quick disclaimer, what you're going to be seeing in this video is strictly towards the player. I've been playing a lot of Immortal Empires now and have not seen the AI do any better, so this strictly benefits the human player if they want an easy yet quite fun campaign, to be honest. So as we're all aware, Skarbrand had a little bit of money trouble, mostly because, well, you know, settling is a bit complicated. Some of the units are quite expensive, like, well, the Bloodletters, which are your mainstay. And yeah, Chaos Warriors were a little bit cheaper depending on what you did, but it was still a bit too much. You would start your campaign with money trouble, and it would carry on for a little bit until you start to get the ball rolling, where your corruption is then spreading into settlements. But then, obviously, there was the growth issue, so yeah, it was a bit strange. So to supplement the money trouble, the Marauders of Khorne are now available, which are almost half as expensive as the upkeep for the Bloodletters. This also comes to a massive benefit to you, as, like I said, you'd be dealing with Wurzag, who's got magical attacks, and it doesn't really affect the Marauders as well as it does for the demons. So it makes it a lot easier for you to come in, do your damage, and have a cheaper stack also. Keep in mind that these units cannot be upgraded. It's not like the Champions of Chaos or the Warriors of Chaos. This is the traditional Total War feel. But seeing as you're in a place surrounded by enemies, you can imagine that going down to 95 upkeep for a unit rather than 180 is going to be much more beneficial to you. Obviously, global recruitment will still be very expensive, but it's the price that you pay to keep very active, to keep those benefits coming in, as bloodletting is a main mechanic for Skarbrand and the rest of the Khornates. Obviously, Marauders aren't going to be the only thing that you're going to want to use, so the rest of the Khornate units that have been added into the Champions of Chaos DLC, keep in mind that yes, you'll need to purchase the DLC, will also be available to you. So Skarbrand has a massive roster now. This is the same thing with every other Mono-God faction, barring that of Daniel, but we'll talk about Daniel a little bit later in a different video. Right now we're just focusing on the Mono-God factions, and yeah, a lot of units. You've got access to the Chosen, you've got access to the Chaos War Shrine. You already had a decent amount of warriors anyway, as Khorne doesn't have a lot of demons, so you already pretty much know how to use them. The only thing is that you have a bunch more units now to play around with also the Exalted Champion of Khorne and the Chaos Lord of Khorne too. This also means that all the new units are also available in your red skill line, the one that focuses around buffing your units. Skarbrand has this ability, so yeah, you can boost them up. If you want to focus on mostly mortals with Skarbrand, it's more than possible. Even then, most of these skills you're going to acquire anyway, because there's very select few, and there's always kind of a bit of a meta, boosting up the Chaos Warriors of Khorne and the Chosen of Khorne, the Skull Crushers, all the Marauders, they're all in the same area. You still have all the demon ones too, as you can expect, but it's just spread out, and nothing's really changed here for the skills in general, just adding stuff into already available skills, which I think is quite good. And yes, that also means that the tech tree does also benefit all your newer units, which might sound like a given, but there's another video coming out today which proves it otherwise. Anyways, so yeah, you can benefit from this, and it's all on the same techs. For example, the tech that most people normally go for, which is the reduction of upkeep for the Chaos Warriors and the Chaos Knights of Khorne, now boosts up the armor of the Marauders of Khorne too. Yes, it won't take out their upkeep, but then again, they're already quite cheap, but it'll make them much more viable early game. They're all spread out, so you're going to have to do a little bit of digging. It's kind of how it's expected, because they can't really change the technology tree for Khorne, as it's stylized to focus around their lore. So, you know, 8 is the sacred number, so there's 8 sections with 8 techs. By the way, the skill lines for the Herald of Khorne also affect your warriors too. So yeah, I know this sounds like a given, but another faction actually doesn't have this, and we'll talk about that in another video, which should be dropping today too. So if you want some more warriors with your Heralds of Khorne, Khorne, that's perfectly fine, and I think that works out quite well, because a healthy mix is actually really, really good. Now, you can actually have a different lord choice, which is really nice that we actually have a different lord choice now, even though it's more or less the same thing. We have the Chaos Lord of Khorne now, which does buff up demons, does buff up the warriors also. The blue skill line, interestingly enough, focuses that on the Champions of Chaos stuff, so no upkeep reduction, which, I don't know, that needs to be changed in the future. That's just an honest opinion of mine, as... yeah, you want to still have some skills to reduce some upkeep. The Chaos Lord of Khorne is weaker, yes, that's very much true, because it doesn't really focus around buffing, so your units will not get a lot of benefits from it, but it is possible to do a lot more damage with him. Plus, you know, variety for the sake of variety, like I said, Khorne has very little options. Something I found very, very interesting is the fact that even the Chaos Lords of Khorne, Immortal, has access to Demonic Gateway, which means that you can make use of the global recruitment to get some more troops in. Obviously, I can't right now because I'm quite... poor, but you know, it does actually help to have armies moving around and being able to recruit. But again, highlighting the fact that the Marauders are so cheap means that I can have two active armies. My army with Skarbrand is much larger, but I've got this smaller army moving around, which is able to just, you know, do some damage, sack some settlements. Unfortunately, this one, they didn't replenish it just yet, but it's the case of still being able to just get a lot more damage out there, getting more growth overall for my provinces, because, you know, bloodletting affects that, and that means that as I progress and I start getting settlements, you know, they start getting gifted to me by the corruption mechanic and all that type of stuff, I have an army to defend, because you're going to start off in an area where most, if not all of the factions have minus 100 aversion to you, so expect a lot of people declaring war on you. It's a very hectic campaign. The Southlands is just full of potential enemies, so you want Skarbrand moving around doing as much damage as possible, but you're going to have to defend those settlements. There's Bretonnians, there's Tomb Kings, there's Vampire Counts, there's Orcs, there's Skaven, there's so much which is just looking to get rid of you as soon as humanly possible. So having a second army on the cheap, which is still pretty strong, because the Marauders of Khorne are still pretty strong, you know, that makes you have a strong benefit. It's not like the Realm of Chaos, where everything is just a little bit more easier to defend. You don't have an area which is covered by loads of mountains, which makes it harder for all the other factions to move around, so yeah. And what you will notice is that because the fact that you can have some cheaper units, it does mean that you can play a bit more aggressively. Like, you were already aggressive with Skarbrand on the Realm of Chaos map, but here, it's what, turn 12? And I've already destroyed a bunch of factions. I've pretty much gotten rid of the Savage Orcs. I've just left the settlement there, which I'll be dealing with later. I'm going for Wurzag now with a bloody hand. The Morcane area has also been destroyed. I've captured the southern area, which is where my capital is. Also having an army down there fighting off the Bretonnians and the Tomb Kings, which declared war. So I'm getting a decent amount of growth in general for all my provinces, which means right now I've only got the one province, but I'm able to just get them up to speed and have them defended a lot easier. It's also really important to note, and I'm not sure if this is intended or not, but factions do not auto-declare war on you anymore. Yeah, they will after a while because of the aversion, but even being next to the dwarves or being next to the Bretonnians and stuff like that, that was me declaring war, which again makes the campaign a lot easier. So Skarbrand has become really, really strong and also a lot easier to play, which is a weird thing considering he was already that easy. And finally, not a big thing, but I figure a lot of people would like to know this, if you get a Chaos Lord of whatever, depending on what Monogod faction you're playing, yes, you can ascend them to Demonhood. So here, Chaos Lord of Khorne has now reached rank, I think it was 15, and is now able to ascend. He'll lose a few ranks, he'll go down to 8, and yeah, same thing, you know, same type of skills, what you can expect. It's the same things as the Champions of Chaos Demon Prince, but that means that you've got another option if you so wanted. So variety is for the sake of variety, but that's always kind of good, isn't it? But before I leave you, I'll leave you with this. Ignore the Regiment of Renown, I put them in there by mistake, but this is now your roster if you decide to play as Skarbrand with a Mono-God Khorne faction if you own the Champions of Chaos DLC. It's rather large, you have loads of different options, you have a new hero choice, you have a new lord choice. It's a lot of variety. I mean, it's all very samey considering it's Khorne, but yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below about the changes to Khorne and the Monogod faction, and yeah, we'll start a bit of a discussion, and until then, I'll see you all again very, very soon.